Tinfoil beanies intensify as Red Bull benefit from a safety car. Michael Massey is probably criticised again for that decision, and someone doesn't like Andrea Bocelli. G'day there, my name is James Baldwin, and welcome to another episode of Lakeside Drive's F1 podcast. In this episode, we review the Italian Grand Prix. And I'm joined remotely. Well, they're not remote. I'm remote by my friends and yours. Tommy T, g'day, mate.
G'day, mate. How you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. And Thomas J. Camp, how you doing, my man?
Hello, I'm well. Hello, gentlemen.
And Ezekiel Thomas Fenn, full names only, producing the show as always. Welcome back to you, Ezekiel.
Thanks, James.
Good, all right, excellent.
Called him
good
James.
Still jamming my phone.
Yeah, I'm just
Still
jamming
James
for
on
too many people.
Spotify too.
That's true. And on Spotify on both platforms. Lads, let's start talking, shall we, about the lack of Campy's corner. Campy, what happened?
Well, you decided to go to the pub in the UK, which meant we couldn't record, and I tried to find a replacement, real late, and it just didn't happen. So I'm real sorry about that, but I'm not sure people missed out too much anyway. So that's
not
for the
true.
fans to decide. But hey, I'm sorry. It'll be back next time.
That's not true. People were wondering where it went. There was a petition apparently to get it back. So the reason is I preference going to the pub because it was 10 o'clock at night here rather than doing it. So look, all of our bads, but it will be back. It'll be back next weekend.
Me and Zeke, why do we get roped into that?
It's absolutely Ezekiel's fault. How dare you? Let's continue on the unnecessary amount of Dutch love in Tommy T. Thank God this wasn't announced before you and Freya had an opportunity to talk about it with Nick de Vries. But all right, off you go.
I mean, I rescind everything I said on Freya's podcast, to be honest, because I was kind of dismissing that he was going to have a chance, and then the guy comes and just dominates. Driver of the week.
Hey, cracking drive. Got points first time out. That's good.
Yeah.
Does that put the coffin in? Put the nail in Latifi's coffin?
That's one of my only notes that I took down. That is Latifi done for. Sorry, pal.
Yeah, it's not a good look, is it?
I think for a lot of people, it probably isn't surprising, is it? I mean, Nick de Vries, Formula 2 champion, in the same way that we talk about Charles Leclerc, George Russell, and now Oscar Piastri. And we don't talk about the current Formula 2 champion we haven't spoken about all year, wins the F2 championship yesterday, is in absolutely zero contention for any kind of seat in 2023. Anyway, we'll get to that in just a little bit. But it's not surprising, no. I mean, he is a decent racer. I think it was a shame that his cohort of drivers around that Charles Leclerc, George Russell era was such that the seats were too full for him to enter into the sport. He, of course, is the Formula E World Champion. He's been doing some WEC stuff and other bits and pieces too. So I think the guy can absolutely drive. And yes, it is absolutely the coffin in the nail for Nick Latifi. At least they can just swap one Nick for another at Williams. But of course, it's interesting, isn't it? Because he started the weekend, Tommy T, driving an Aston Martin.
Yeah, so he's come from testing a Williams at the start of this season in testing. He's come and he's the reserve driver for a bunch of Mercedes teams, and he's been doing sim work throughout all the time. So he's using different steering wheels. And literally this weekend he was in an Aston Martin the day before, and then he's been told, "You're driving a Williams for a full race tomorrow. Figure it out." Oh, qualifying first and then a full race. So for him to be able to switch between those different things, I don't think it's an insignificant amount of differences for those steering wheels, cars, setups, everything. So he's done an incredible job to do what he's done and beat the guy who's been driving that for 2 years. Yeah. Pretty incredible.
Yeah, when you get your shot in F1, you got to take it, regardless of what sort of machinery you're in. The team you're driving could be the worst car ever, but hey, I think Albon would have got points in that car as well if he missed it. For sure. But he stepped up, made the most of his opportunity, and that's all you can do, and that'll probably get him a drive at some point in Formula One. So we've got to wait to wait to let it play out to see where he gets a seat. But after a drive like that, he would have jumped up 5 or 6 spots on the tier of getting a drive of people in front of him, because he's now shown people that he can get the job done from day one. So excellent for him.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think that's as you say, when your shot comes along in Formula One, you have one opportunity to really push it. It looked like, though, didn't it, in qualifying, that he was potentially pushing a little too hard, or at least in FP3 rather, not qualifying, pretty hard. But his quali result was phenomenal. I think you're right also in saying that Alex Albon would have got points this weekend. Of course, having appendicitis is not good for anyone. So to have that...
Just race.
That's why he lost his Red Bull seat.
Wow. But to have that, and I think this is the interesting point. Maybe we can come a little bit back to later in Williams, but it's interesting, though, that Albon and Nick, who hasn't driven this car competitively, is able to come in and, got some luck with the 17,000 grid penalties and 400 people starting at back of the grid, to a point where it took Formula One a good couple of hours to confirm exactly where people were starting, which is just absolutely ridiculous. But for that car, for that Williams to be where it is now, this could be a track-specific thing where we saw a little bit of strength, obviously, in Spa, which is can be pretty high speed. Of course, Monza is absolutely low downforce, high-speed track as well. But we'll come to talk a little bit about Williams in a moment. But the other thing that I want to talk about, Campy, is this phenomenal helmet design that Daniel Ricciardo had for the weekend, of course, in tribute to Valentino Rossi.
Yeah, Rossi's he's one of these guys like a Hamilton and an Alonso and a Schumacher who surpassed their own sport on a global scale. Their name's huge, and he was a character of characters. And I think for Danny Rick to do that in Italy, paying big respects, I think he probably greatest helmet I've ever seen in F1 for a long time. But that's the sort of character Danny is. He's fun, he's lovable.
Would you say that Rossi is the LeBron of motorsport, potentially? MotoGP.
Probably the MJ of MotoGP, if I'm honest, but he may be the LeBron because he went on for so long and raced till he's 40 and just got shitter as he went on. But
that's Jordan, you mean? He went back to the Wizards.
Still dropped 50 in 40, so it's not too bad.
This will never get old. Sorry, Mark.
That's good.
Just every time.
Quick shout out to Will Power and IndyCar too. Took home the championship last night after Laguna Seca. So it was a big double header for me last night, and I'm feeling the effects of that tiredness right now. I'm living on about 45 minutes sleep, so it's a good race in the end. Will Power is a superstar Aussie boy, and it's his second IndyCar championship. He went into the final round with the lead, took pole, coincidentally got the most poles ever on record for IndyCar. So very good. He hasn't had the greatest year results-wise in the sense that hasn't won a lot of races. I think he only won one race and took 6 poles, I believe. But just the consistency throughout the year is what got the job done for him. So congrats. It's good to see an Aussie on the world stage getting it done.
Yeah, that's so good. I look forward to him also being in contention for the Alpine seat for 2023 shortly as a result. Let's do now Discord comment of the week.
And now it's time for the Discord comment of the week.
It's great. Even remote, it's so great. I can't get enough of it. Now, this is something that we'll come to talk about in a little bit, in a couple of moments, about the ending of the Grand Prix, about safety cars. But I do love a good little rant on Discord, and there is no better ranter, I feel, than Tilly Willy 1, who does a great job of lying sort of in the meme shadows. He loves the if you're a Sky Glass or Q customer, press the red button meme often pops up through the race weekend. But this is his comment on David Croft's comments about the confusion on a safety car. What confusion? The green light comes on once the track is safe enough until the safety car picks up the leader. From there, they wait until the message comes from race control to unlap those behind the leader. The safety car is there to let race control gain info, bunch the field to complete their work and decide when it is safe to race. The red flag is for blocked tracks, catastrophic accidents and inability to continue. Stop manufacturing controversy, Sky. I love it. Very, very good. Tommy T, controversy central. That is very much a Sky thing, is it not?
Well, it's almost like these are the same people who were pissed off about what happened to Lewis in the last race of last year to decide the championship, are now calling for that to be the norm for every race. They've completely 180'd. We don't do that. We always finish under yellow safety cars. We've never red flagged because we can, just so we have a racing lap at the end. That's just the weirdest thing I've ever heard. I don't know when that's almost less precedent than what happened last year. I think it's just them trying to manufacture stuff, like exactly what Tilly Willy's saying. We just let it finish under a safety car. It is still exciting because you're wondering if we are going to go racing. Yes, it's not under racing conditions, but it still has an element of suspense, which is what we wanted.
Yeah, and look, no one wants to see the race end under a safety car period. But,
No.
I mean, common sense. I mean, there was 6 laps to go. The race was well and truly over anyway.
Yeah.
I think Leclerc caught Verstappen 1 second over 10 laps. So that's a tenth a lap. And, Verstappen was on cruise mode anyway. So, look, we'll move on. The safety car did get it wrong, though. Picked up George Russell, didn't pick up Max. And I think once that happened, in a track like Monza and how spaced out everybody was last night, it was always going to take 4 or 5 laps for the cars to sort themselves out, and then, the unlapped cars can unlap themselves after they've, come up behind someone. I mean, it's a shit show anyway, the safety car. But no one wants to see it, but they got it right last night, except for that one stuff up. But hey, human error happens.
Yeah.
Look at Ferrari; they shit the bed on everything last night.
Well, end of the day,
Every week.
safety is the main cause here. There was a car stopped on the track. We need to have a safety car. Whereas opposed to last week, which was annoying me, they were like, we'll keep it yellows, and then we'll go VSC, and then we'll go safety car. 3 laps have happened in that time. That's idle. You need to make the decision quickly, like they did. Safety car. That's great.
Let's be clear. The Italians, the officials, were having lunch by that stage of the race anyway, and it took them so long to react to get out and figure out what was going on before they had permission to even get out there anyway. So,
and we can probably blame DR for leaving it in gear, and that's probably the main reason they couldn't push it away.
It wasn't as gear. The engine was seized. It wouldn't move. It couldn't get it out of gear.
I know.
Come on, Daniel, lift. Seriously. No,
Bloody
I think
hell,
that's
McLaren.
I think it's spot on for both of you, honestly. The precedent was before last year. Sky absolutely wanting its cake in and wanting to eat it too. And there's no way that Max Verstappen's losing that race. They're just not even with a lap to go. Something would have happened. Charles' car would have exploded. They were talking, Ferrari were talking halfway through the race about, there's something wrong with the power unit or something. So it wouldn't be a surprise.
Even the commentators were alluding once Leclerc got back under that 18-second mark, and they were like, yeah, we clearly had the race pace. We just got strategy wrong because, Max was 18 seconds and they did that extra pit stop. I was like, that's not how that works.
No.
1 iota. Like, you still would have got beaten if you'd done 1 pit stop by probably 12 seconds. So, yeah, what a shambles that is. Can I just say how good was it when McLaren stuffed up Lando's pit stop? The Discord went off. It was unbelievable.
I was sitting in a pub which was so focused on Formula One to the point when I got in, I think at 12:30, and there was no one in the pub, but every single table was reserved for F1. And so just to set the scene, and then when Lando's pit stop, when he's still sitting up in his jacks, I was like, yes! Suck it! Stay there!
And no one else.
no one else. Just me. Just me. Everyone else was looking at me. But because the British are too polite to say anything, I was like, whatever. Great.
Did you hear the Queen died over there, Jim? I'm not sure if you've...
No, I didn't. Did she?
Realised or understood?
That's...
So... It's even better the second time.
Reusing jokes. All right, let's do our television broadcast review, shall we?
Yeah.
love that I can just hear Zeke giggling in the background.
That's good.
He's stoked with himself.
It's a good addition.
Yeah, it's true. All right, Tommy T, I know it's not really your thing. It's the whole podcast thing, but we're just not going to change the thing. My whole note here for the broadcast is, oh boy.
Yeah, I mean, we've kind of alluded to a few of them already, haven't we? Tilly Willy was spot on with that. They're trying to manufacture some drama kind of stuff. Also, I do understand that this is a Sky broadcast, but it is a world sport. So if another monarch had maybe passed, I don't think we would have had this level, but I do understand. So they're going to get a grace period for that, for the carry on and like the extra stuff that we were seeing. But other than that, it was kind of boring, wasn't it? There wasn't a lot going on. We kind of saw more play out on social media. We saw like new liveries, helmets, those kind of things. There was nothing interesting happening on the grid. I didn't see the start of the race, the anthem and the flyover. I think we did get a decent flyover from what I saw afterwards.
Got to give it to the Italians. They're a bit like the Chinese when it comes to that stuff. Nah, we're still doing it. We don't care about what you say. It's good.
Yeah, the flyover was...
the anthem.
The flyover was not on target. Well, that's right. So the anthem... Talk to us about the anthem, Campy.
Well, it was Andrea Bocelli, wasn't it? Is that who it was? Yeah, I know my... whatever you call that kind of music. Opera.
Isn't he a tenor?
He's a tenor, whatever. No, he was good. But they didn't turn him up. We missed the first half of the anthem. We got the good part, though, where it's like changes and goes da-da-da, 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 da-da-da. It's good.
Can we cut that out, Zeke, and put that
We'll drop that in. That's fine.
I knew I couldn't hear the anthem. They hadn't turned the audio on by that point. But Andrea Bocelli is incredible talent, one of the world's best singers. So it's disappointing that they didn't show some respect to him by turning the microphone on.
Very patriotic, hand on the heart, too. Like that.
Yep.
Bit of emotion.
Yep. No time on target, though, for the flyover, happening just before he finished, which was disappointing, so much so that they decided to come back and do it again a second time just so they could have some imagery. So, look, plus some points, I suppose, for some flyover. But, Aeromachi's interesting that they all stayed in the sky as they went over, which was at least good from that point of view. Are we going to collectively give the whole broadcast a rating out of 10? I think it was probably a good 3.5 out of 10 for me. Campy, what about you?
4 generously.
No, I'm not the one who's rating this. So it's Tommy's job.
Abstaining.
Staying in my lane.
Abstain.
Goodness me. All right, let's talk.
King. I'll keep it to myself.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, no one cares about your opinion. Now let's talk about Oscar Piastri. No, I'm kidding. Let's see who's in Campy's bin.
I think they've solidified their spot, and that is the Ferrari strategy. How do they stuff that up? It was way too early to pit for a one-stop. The two-stop was always going to be way longer. I'm just shocked that they continue to make these. It's not just once or twice, and it's been consistent over the last 7 or 8 races. They're reacting. They're not. I don't think the preparation is good enough, and the person making those decisions on the wall is relying too heavily on a driver who doesn't have the whole picture. I mean, the scenarios they run at the track and back at their factory and the interconnectionality of it, you've probably got 30 people looking at the strategy realistically, and then all the computer algorithms that generate billions of different outcomes. Why on earth would they continue to make poor decisions like that? It is just mind-bogglingly stupid.
Do you think if you were running in second, pitting under that virtual safety car was the play? You do the opposite, because Max was told do opposite in that situation.
The thing is,
I don't think it's from the front is what I'm saying. That move is something you do in second place to try and gain an advantage or throw the other team off. I don't think it's something you do leading from the front that early.
I think I hear what you're saying, but you've got to look at teams like you've got McLaren, you've got Gasly, you've got Norris, De Vries in the Williams, Alonso in that train behind them.
Yeah.
If those guys were going to pull the pin on that pit early to get some track position, they were the ones that should have made it work. Like, they were the ones that would have naturally made that decision. But because all those teams didn't do it and every other team on the grid decided against it, it was just that 10 laps too early to make that two-stop or one-stop strategy work. And I'm just unsure why Ferrari made it. They were under pressure from Max Verstappen. I mean, that start from 7th to get back into seconds and then just not blindingly coming up to him, but, you know, closed that 4-second gap down to about a second half over a 10-lap period. And they were just under pressure and they didn't know what to do. And they're just too reactive at the moment. I think even if they'd have got the strategy right, they still would have lost the race on pace anyway. But, yeah, they're in the bin. Cement
Hannah Schmidt's
never getting out.
Can I also just say this is not my soundboard today. I don't have access to it. This is all Zeke, so it's fantastic. I have to say the profile that Freya did on Friday with you, Tommy T, about Hannah Schmitz was really, really good.
Yeah.
So a massive up to both of you for that, and a massive down immediately for both of you being Dutch. It's genuinely very good. Genuinely very good. Sure, mate. No worries. I'll do that right now. But
everyone on the grid.
But it's a really interesting comparison, was going to be my point, to Red Bull, who very clearly know what they're doing and they've trust in their team. And Christian isn't the one making decisions, it feels like. Or, in fact, it's not Dietrich Mateschitz making decisions about the cars on the grid, but it feels like the Ferrari board are trying to control almost every single aspect. And I imagine most of them were there at the Italian Grand Prix, probably trying to control aspects of what was going on in the race. So there's no hope in hell that Carlos Sainz, Charles Leclerc, or anyone else driving for Ferrari at any point in the next 15 to 20 years is winning a World Drivers' Championship, because the team is just incapable of getting it all together as a whole package, which is disappointing. But I was talking to people yesterday sitting in the same pub who were Ferrari fans, and they agreed that the only reason why they won in 2007 was because they're lucky, because the best strategist they ever had was Michael Schumacher before that. And it's unlikely that that's going to be a thing going forward, which is unfortunate. All right, are there any podcast penalties to hand out before we go into our team-by-team analysis?
Surely Campy gets one for not having a podcast. That's got to be worth something.
I'll take that.
Is it? I think it's probably a shared.
I'll put it into the fine jar and we'll take that over to Austin, not this year because it's sold out, but Vegas next year. So.
I don't know if I want to go to Vegas. I don't know if I want to go to Vegas as a fan, because if the Miami tickets are anything to go by, just very quickly, there was a renewal email sent about Miami that I saw on Twitter, and something like the original tickets cost like $1,500 per ticket, and now this coming year's seats, exactly the same seats, are $3,000 per ticket. It's beyond mental, and so I don't hold any hope out that Vegas is going to be any cheaper, although I imagine you could try and get a hotel room, I suppose, overlooking the track, although I'm sure they'll figure that out too. We'll get back to our review of the Italian Grand Prix in just a moment, but I want to tell you about our sponsor for this episode, NordVPN. Now, NordVPN is an incredibly good product. It is something that I've been using for years and years, and I'm happy to say that they are continuing to sponsor us for the next couple of episodes. Now, I'm currently in the UK, and having a VPN is incredibly important to me. As I've mentioned, I've been using Nord for years, and when I come overseas, it means that if I need to watch something slightly different, but I'm really struggling because I'm either in the UK or the US or Australia, I can use my VPN and merely just put myself in a different location, at least so the internet thinks. It means that I can unlock region-locked content and be able to watch whatever I need to watch to get on top of Formula One or other motorsport as well. Now, NordVPN has an incredible deal going for the moment. 2 years plus 4 months free. 4 months free, and those 2 years are heavily discounted. You can see that deal plus so much more about NordVPN at nordvpn.com/Lakeside Drive. That's nordvpn.com/Lakeside Drive. You can find the link in the description below. And a massive thank you to NordVPN for sponsoring this podcast. Now, let's get back to it. All right, let's go through our team-by-team analysis. And we'll start at the very back of the pack, gents, with Aston Martin, both not finishing. Tommy T, Sebastian Vettel. There was some great imagery of him arriving at the track on a scooter. He was parting the crowds with his wonderful thin headband on, everyone absolutely loving King Seb as he comes through, of course, for the final time at Monza. It's a big shame, wasn't it, that he wasn't able to finish, at least in the points, of course, his first win taking place with Toro Rosso here many, many years ago. So as Freya said, it's a nice way to sort of round off, it would have been a nice way rather to have rounded off his career. Unfortunately, that wasn't to be. But Aston Martin as a whole had a terrible weekend.
They did. I mean, you could see everyone still loves Seb in Italy. There was posters, there was people holding up signs and stuff, which is great. The reaction for him, everyone's kind of softened to Seb, the kind of killer instinct guy that's willing to step on everyone to get to the top. And now he's just everyone's favourite Uncle Seb. But you could tell audibly he was very disappointed over the radio when he missed out on qualifying. He was excited and something had gone wrong in his first run, I think, and they had to put him through for the last kind of moment, and he was unfortunately out by, I think it was only like 600ths or something. It was like something very small to miss out on the next stage of qualifying, which would have hopefully helped, but end of the day, both those cars were retired, so he could have qualified higher and still ended up with a DNF, unfortunately. But I don't know what's going on with Aston at the moment. They seem to be just kind of floating towards the bottom of the pack somehow.
Yeah. Hey, that's what happens when you copy cars. You would have thought this week the car would be good after they copied a Red Bull. But, hey, I don't know where. They have had good performances. Where was it? We were talking about it the other week. They were good, but it was track specific.
Yeah.
And, they were competing with, the likes of an Alpine at that time. But, I'm not sure they got the drivers. Seb's not the driver he used to be. Stroll definitely, we've had that conversation 1,000 times. So, Alonso going to that team may be what they need to unlock some potential out of that car. But, they're just in a bit of a rut at the moment, aren't they? They'll probably drop back like McLaren.
Yeah, and I think it doesn't seem like they've got an easy way out. I mean, the big sort of design, rather philosophy change that they undertook, yes, to copy Red Bull effectively, but to go away from where they were, feels like maybe they should be by this point, because that was what was race 4, I think, around Imola, where they had that design come in. So you would have thought by this point that they would have settled that in terms of trying to push everything forward. Doesn't seem like that's the case. They do have glimpses, Campy, you're right, in terms of how they perform. Certainly, Seb's not lost it, but he's not the driver he used to be. He's also said he's retiring, so there's not a lot of impetus anymore for him to really put in his best performances outside of the fact that he would want to do that personally for himself. So I think as a whole, pardon me, it's disappointing. I think Aston Martin, and even when Fernando Alonso announced that he was going to Aston Martin, some of the names that he sort of rattled off, there's a lot of individuals within that team who are awesome and very, 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 very clever people and have had success in history in Mercedes and Red Bull and other teams in the past that have won championships. But it, again, is a collective thing like Ferrari. They haven't got the whole team thing right yet for it to be super competitive. And it'll be interesting to see if they ever can get that right, because everyone else is doing it at the same time. So it's almost like they need to work harder to get to that point. Let's talk about Haas now. Mick Schumacher finishing in 12th, Kevin Magnussen in 16th. Campy, in terms of sort of falling to the back, it feels like Haas are unable to sort of push forward either, and they're struggling around that the front of the bottom of the pack now.
Yeah, a bit like Alfa Romeo. They haven't bought a lot of upgrades to the car this year. Manufacturing's slower than other teams. We spoke about that with Valtteri last week too. But, I thought Mick was very competitive. Unfortunately for K-Mag, he got caught up on a lap 1 incident with Bottas and maybe Hamilton, I believe. They were one of the last 4 cars to go through that first chicane and got squeezed. So I think Magnussen's pace was reflective of some car damage, probably from the floor, I believe. I don't think they talked a lot about it on the actual broadcast, but just looking at the incidents, that's what I'd say it would be. But Mick Schumacher, 12th. Would have been 13th if it wasn't for Danny Rick's retirement. But he's shown a bit. He's getting results over the last 4 or 5 races over K-Mag. That's not indicative of K-Mag's pace. But he's putting his best foot forward to get a drive next year. And the longer this plays out, the longer I think he won't get a drive for next year. So that's where I'll leave it until
Yeah.
Until he does and he's confirmed. Not. I mean, De Vries comes out last night and gets points in his first race. I mean, Mick's had a couple of years to do that and only scored points a couple of times. So it's those results for people like De Vries jump him up that pecking order of getting a seat up, above these other ones. Mick did everything right to get into Formula One.
Yeah.
One F3, one F2. Got the drive, he's got the name, he had performed and he did deserve that spot on the grid. If it was me, I'd be giving him another year somewhere, but Haas don't want him, so they've got to get him somewhere else. And I'm just not sure other teams are looking to put that Mick Schumacher ahead of someone else like a Gasly or Ricciardo or the other people that have been talked to telling Jesus coming back, maybe, stuff like that. So it's a shame for him, but I think it's easier long-term to keep him in the sport, but who wants to take a risk on a guy like Mick Schumacher at the moment when he's had a couple of years and not done a lot?
I don't think the upside's there, unfortunately. I think he's probably near about as good as he's going to be. He's going to be in a car, doing the right things. He's not making a lot of mistakes, but he's also not netting results and kind of pushing that development, pushing that car, being opportunistic. He's not really going to go much further than this, I wouldn't have thought. So when you've seen kind of the final form of someone, and there's no real point in taking them when there's other people who have higher upside, like an Oscar or someone like De Vries who hasn't had a chance yet and does that first time out, that is opportunistic, and there's someone you probably want to back into a seat long term.
Yep.
Yeah, it's an interesting point, isn't it, that De Vries comes in, scores points, is now heralded as driver of the day by the fans and all of this sort of other stuff, and someone like Mick is in their second year, as you say, Campy, only scoring points recently. It's not the same situation, is it, by any stretch? I mean, no. It's different cars, but that's almost doesn't matter because it's not about that in this sport. The perception is such that Nick's come in, he's faster than Mick immediately, whether that's true or not. If you put Mick rather in the same car yesterday in that Williams, he might find it much more comfortable to drive than the Haas and found it faster. And we know that Williams are investing in pushing the team forward, and Haas are only bought upgrades once in Hungary. So it's not the same, but again, it doesn't matter that it's not. And it's sad for Mick because there doesn't seem like any future progression for him. It wasn't the same like when Charles came in or George or others, or even Lando now just staying with McLaren trying to get themselves forward. There's no progression for him towards the front, which is a shame.
Can I make a comparison to K-Mag? K-Mag's debut at Melbourne,
awesome,
albeit lucky, McLaren got on the podium on his first race, and I think he got up to second because Danny Rick got disqualified from memory. But him doing that, at the time, we should have been jumping up and down about how good K-Mag was and what sort of driver he was. But getting that podium, no one in the media at the time talked about it. And it wasn't a big deal. It was because he was replacing someone and the car was quick. So in this instance where everyone's talking about how good De Vries was last night, on the flip side, you can get really good results. And the perception and the reporting and journalism around your results don't necessarily bring that hype either. But the way that the media has jumped on this story and the hype around him is, it's different, and it's different every time. I mean, Magnussen got that. What does he have to do to get that type of hype at the start of his career, but it didn't eventuate? So I think De Vries is lucky at the moment, and good on him. But, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how his stocks now last. And I think maybe it was Damon Hill yesterday saying that is a drive that people are going to take notice of. Well done. And he's right. I mean, Nick struggling to get out of the car, though, with his really sore shoulders is also a really good indicator that this sport is like nothing else. Yep. Alpine. Fernando Alonso DNFing, Esteban Ocon outside of the points in 11th. Not traditionally a track that's really liked this car, or this car's not traditionally liked this track very often, but it's disappointing to see because Alonso, again, without having the weight of figuring out what he's doing for next year, seems like he should be driving the best that this car has to offer. And I feel like he just sort of loves this track, Campy.
Oh, the guy's awesome. He's a phenomenal driver behind the wheel. Like, he's as good as it gets. Unfortunately for him, he had some car issues last night in a place where he hasn't had a lot of luck historically. I think he won in a Ferrari at Monza. I think it was 2011 or 2012. And that was the last time that Ferrari had won there. And I remember the crowd after that. It was unbelievable. He was fighting really hard against Seb in that championship, and he didn't have the car. But yeah, it's one of those things. It's just motorsport. These things happen sometime. But the Alpine didn't perform well. I don't think this track was the characteristic of the Alpine that we've seen in the last 7 or 8 races.
Yeah, I mean, Charles Leclerc did win Monza, though, don't forget, in a Ferrari only a couple of years ago. So there has been a Ferrari victory
Sorry.
Just to immediately fact check you.
I just don't remember.
That doesn't count. He's too young. No, I think Alpine have been...
When did he win it? Not last year.
No, because...
2019.
Not the year before. Gasly won that.
And then
2019. Keep going.
Really?
Yeah.
Wasn't that a...
Do you not remember
Here we go.
the Italians flooding the track, going mental?
Probably missed that race.
Probably watching IndyCar.
I'm joking.
No, I think Alpine would be disappointed with this week. I think Alonso showed pace. He had moments, but again, this is not the track for that car and how they've set it up. It's one of those ones that you just kind of write off. A lot of teams will find that because Monza is so different to everything else. So there's not a lot of cars that are built for this kind of track. They're built for others that we have a lot more similar tracks to. This is the outlier that we kind of just have to cop as a constructor, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah, I think you're right. And it'd be interesting to see the next couple of tracks how this car performs, because a lot of the conversation, of course, with driver market and everything else is that this car is pretty good. This is not a good showing for this car. But Singapore's next, an interesting downforce circuit, so that'll be good to see how they perform there. Alfa Romeo, now, Zhou Guanyu getting points is fantastic as well in 10th. Valtteri Bottas, unfortunately, in 13th. Campy, you just said before that, it feels like Aston Martin, Haas, the Ferrari customer teams are really taking their natural place at the back of the grid, which is such a shame. I think we said it last week as well that that's happening. But points for Zhou for this weekend is a great showing.
He got lucky too, Danny Rick coming out. He jumped up that spot, but he's on the pace. I mean, he was 3 or 4 seconds behind De Vries at one stage. But, I mean, they had some genuine pace compared to everyone else, but you get stuck in those DRS trains and it just evens the field a hell of a lot. The DRS didn't do a lot this weekend. It was only good for 5 or 6 kilometres, which I just thought was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Just compared to how much downforce they can trim off these wings and stuff, which was, it was a good spectacle, but I think they held on that way. But, okay, good for Zhou. And, there are conversations about him next year because he hasn't got a contract yet. So, getting points can't do it. Unfortunately for Bottas, he had that incident at the start. I think that hindered his pace a bit too.
Yeah, he looked like he couldn't pass anyone. He was getting slipstreams and he couldn't even get alongside people along that straight, even though you'd argue with the fresh bits that he had on his car, he should have been. Yep. So that would have been a frustrating 53 laps to sit around in that broken, crappy Alpha. But again, look good on Zhou. He struggled to get past De Vries, which is, I think, more credit to De Vries than against Zhou.
Well, that Williams is slippery though.
And especially on that straight, it was able to pull away, and we saw the similar thing happen to the AlphaTauri, which I'm sure we'll get to as well, being able to not pass and just could not follow certain cars that could get away on the straight.
Yep.
Let's talk about Williams. As you said, slippery is absolutely the word for them around here. Now, the final coffin in the nail, Nick Latifi 15th and De Vries 9th, is embarrassing, isn't it? It's Nick versus Nick, and the wise have it. Telling is absolutely exactly right, Campy. I think there's no way now. There's just absolutely no. Even with all the Lavazza money in the world, that Williams can, easily say we need De Vries. We'll keep Latifi over De Vries. It's just unlikely to happen. So what is it for you, Tommy T, that needs to happen maybe for De Vries to get that seat? Or do you think Williams is still going to have to look outside because now they know how he... this is the other thing, sorry, just before I ask you this. De Vries was awesome in the media. about Williams, talking about the team, us, we as a team, all that. Like, it was probably the best media I've seen a driver do in a long time.
People just like Dutch people, mate. I don't know what you're on about.
Here we go. Maybe it's the Mercedes thing is what I was going to say, and the fact that he's just won a world championship with Formula E and Mercedes. But it's interesting for him to be mentally sitting at the back of, next to Toto at the back of the Mercedes garage after his Aston Martin FP1 session into doing that and still being able to deliver. Williams, Yost, everyone taking notice, as we've sort of said before. But this is the other thing. If Albon is unfortunately unable to make it to Singapore, if De Vries can show that at a high downforce, exceptionally, hugely physical track, he's able to maybe not necessarily get points because the car might not suit it there because it's not a slippery circuit. But if he does get points there, oh my goodness, the guy, they should just glue him into that seat for 2023.
I'd almost argue, can Williams hang on to him? Are other teams who have seats available now looking at him more favourably than others? Because what he showed, he's delivered in multiple championships. He's professional in front of the media. He does bring some sponsorship, not as much as others, but he's looking like that professional kind of a Hulkenberg style, just very professional, very slick kind of operator. I think a lot of teams would be looking at him, not just that Williams team. They would be trying to sign that contract right now, I would have thought, so that nothing else can happen in the meantime. But I think people are looking at him now.
Yeah, he's in the conversation. So, but where does he go? That's where do you put him, and who goes out?
I wonder if Stroll's still interested in motorsport. Maybe he taps out, and then there's a spot there. Like there's
Stroll isn't going anywhere.
He might be bored. He might want to be, I don't know, like a pilot or something and just get Dad to buy him something and do that. Do one of those Red Bull aerobatic flying deals or something. I don't know. He can do what he wants. He's cashed up. He's got a cool
brother-in-law. Take him snowboarding. Leave him out in the hill somewhere.
I don't know. I think if there's a seat available, they will be calling Mercedes about De Vries.
Yeah, maybe. Who's his manager?
Oh, it'll be Toto again or someone. Freya. Oh, God. A completely Dutch affair. It's interesting, though, because, and I want to say this mainly because we look at Felipe Drogovic, who's just won Formula 2, again, who is apps exactly. I mean, the guy's been in that series for a couple of years, but now, of course, the rule is you can't
F2
race
doesn't mean just because you win F2 doesn't guarantee you a spot into F1. I mean, there's a winner. There has to be a winner every year. It doesn't guarantee you anything. If I drove in that sport for 15 years, I'd probably win at least one.
Let's do that. I want to see that happen.
Let's get a GoFundMe together for £1 million to try and get Campy into an F3 car. That'd be good. Imagine that in the bin racing. Oh, it'd be the epic Top Gear kind of challenge that they did at Silverstone, that 24-hour in the the diesel-powered BMW. Peniston Oils is our main sponsor. And Larson Biscuits.
How good was that show?
It's just, you cannot beat it. Anyway, let's keep going. AlphaTauri, Pierre Gasly in 8th and Tsunoda in 14th. Gasly could just not get past Danny Rick in that car, and he was getting very, very grumpy Tommy T.
It was funny almost to see.
Could not care less.
I know you don't. But you could almost feel him in his post-race interview. I can't remember what he was asked about, but Gasly had to make a point. He's like, yeah, it'd be like following Daniel a race. Because he pitted and then he came out again behind Daniel because his pit stop was stuffed up. So he lost time that he was trying to do with the overtake, and it didn't happen. And he's like, oh, I'm back behind Daniel again. I thought I got away from him. Just the whole race, looking at the back of his car, not being able to pass would be infuriating.
Yeah, frustrating race, but that's motorsport. So,
and that AlphaTauri just is not set up for a track like Monza. That was it. And Daniel could get speed out of the Parabolica, come down in that straight, and just build enough of a gap to just go for another lap.
By lap 40, Danny had broken him.
Emotionally.
No. Yeah. I mean, to Gasly's credit, he was in DRS for so long, but by lap 40, just started to drop off. And I think it was when Verstappen was coming through the back markers. Once he got out of that DRS zone, I think Danny put about 3 seconds on him, and he just couldn't keep up. But hey, I've got no sympathy for the guy,
You reckon? But I think Yeah. Sonoda was interesting in qualifying. But yeah, unlucky.
There's just nothing I don't feel like he's really performing at all at a point where we should be genuinely having a conversation around him having that seat for next year. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's just nothing now that sort of signifies that. And this is the time rather where AlphaTauri really needs to start making decisions on what they're doing for that seat. And you know, regardless of this whole Colton Herta thing, which I know you guys spoke about on Friday, and an exceptionally good job with that one as well.
Championship Herta. There's clearly
how
better drivers than you in your own class before you make the move to
that's why I didn't
F1.
want to bring this up. We're not talking about the driver market. We're not talking about it. I'm just
Aussie
merely
drivers
mentioning
in Indy that are better than you, and a Kiwi. So,
Kiwis, who cares?
yeah, who?
hey, McLaughlin's a star.
Who's that? What's he done before this?
V8s.
What's that?
Yeah. Anyway, let's move on to a sport that people care about. Yeah, I mean, for Gasly, for Gasly to say though on the radio, I think everyone joined Campy's side of this, and him like, "Oh, Ricciardo's moving all over the place." Everything else, we're all like on the Discord, "Shut up!"
He's moving all over. Give me his break. Get close to him and pass him, you dud.
He was breaking the toe. He was not moving that much. He was moving maybe a quarter of a car width. Like, it was nothing. Yeah,
it was very, very funny.
Potholes, like
legit. That's just the way the road's built in Italy.
Yeah, oh, so good. All right, let's talk about McLaren, and you can either put your tinfoil beanie on or not, depending on how you feel about the whole thing. It was like last year where McLaren accidentally found themselves further towards the grid. And I mean accidentally because of a sprint race and Valtteri Bottas being demoted to the back of the grid with a penalty that he had. And to be fair, it was pretty telling after Norris forgot how to drive a car from the start line. Danny Rick getting in the front of that train, and that's fine. Even if it was Lando, the lack of pace in that McLaren is disgusting. The way that those cars ahead of him went off drove off into the summer, and don't tell me, it's because it's Daniel and he's washed. Either one of those drivers would have had a DRS train behind them, and the gaps ahead would have built. That is the biggest telling thing. Now, what I would also say is, and it's one of the things that I was listening to Tommy T from your points on Friday. It's interesting, isn't it, that we talk about overtaking should be better now with these cars. And I think at the beginning of the year it probably was, but now the engineers and the aerodynamicists have probably found certain ways to maybe lessen that effect that was so great at the very beginning of the year, because DRS trains are still a thing, and there's not much that we can seem to be able to do that. The alternative view to that is Carlos Sainz coming through and just powering past everyone because his car is a lot faster than everyone else's. So I think what it shows is AlphaTauri, McLaren, the Williams, Alfa Romeo, Alpine, they're all in a absolute subcategory to Red Bull, Ferrari, and Mercedes when it comes to everything to do with that package.
The works teams are a step above everyone else. That's really interesting.
Weird.
But Alpine's not though. Anyway, so
I said the works teams, James. Come on.
Oh, my apologies. Yes, please do accept my greatest of apologies. The strategy though for McLaren, Campy. Let's talk about it now. Was it fair in your mind that Rick pitted early to cover off Gasly, stop him from having the undercut? Because obviously later, they left Lando out there and everyone went, oh, no, there you go, Lando's going to get ahead. But do you think, to be fair to McLaren at the time, do you think that was the right call?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
They had to cover off Gasly because it was clear that track position was king in that midfield, like that 8th back to 14th place. Track position was king. So they had to do something. And the undercut is always going to work like that. My frustration is yes, they left Lando out longer and put him on that alternate strategy. But the only reason he could do that alternate strategy is because Danny Rick was controlling the pace.
And because he stuffed his start. That's what he was left with, unfortunately, because of his own doing.
And then they asked Danny Rick over the radio, can you drive at a pace and back it up to get Lando in front of him? And Danny Rick did the team thing because that's the sort of headspace he's in at the moment. That's good. McLaren stuffing up the pit stop, I mean, they should never do that. But they stuffed up the same on Danny Brick's pit stop, and he had a 3.5 second one. And the problem was on the right rear, and they didn't correct that for Lando's stop. But Lando's position in that race was wholly based on what Danny Rick sacrificed for the team.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
It could have been dire straits. They kept him out. Anyway, look, I think, that's McLaren would have ended up in 7th and 8th position, which, I mean, regardless of whether Lando or Danny finished in front of everyone. I mean, Danny took one for the team last night and he drove bloody well. You know, he got the start. So. I just think Lando, when the pressure comes on, in those moments, when he's got to get the job done, he still hasn't proved to me that he can get it done.
Yeah.
Still hasn't won a race. Got one arsey podium this year, like when everyone crashed and died, you know. I mean, shit. You know, the 2 races where he got those 40 points ahead of Danny Rick Danny Rick had mechanicals. So I think we look at the season a bit like that. Yes, he's had the wood over him, but anyway, look, McLaren did pretty much everything right last night, including stuffing up Lando's pit stop.
I think McLaren was spot on, and Daniel was never going to stop Lando coming through because that's stupid. He's on fresher tyres, on a different strategy. He had a chance to try and take Perez. He wasn't going to. We could tell that, but there was that much of a gap. Daniel would have been stupid to just hold it up and just be a petulant child, which we don't want to see. If you genuinely got pace, stay there and race, but this was completely different races.
And what stuffed it was that Hamilton got past. They were gunning for Danny Rick to control the pace. Then when Hamilton met the back of that, they pit him, come out in front, and then had the freshest tyre possible for the last 15 laps of the race to try and hold Hamilton off and try and get Perez to get that top 5. Didn't work out for him. But if they didn't stuff it up, I mean, when he came out of the pit, he got passed by Gasly, and then Hamilton went round the inside on the 2 of them and got right up too. So, I mean, that's what I could see what they were trying to do, and they used Danny as a scapegoat. If it had been positions reversed, I would have hoped they tried the same thing, but
no confidence in that.
No confidence in that. No confidence in Zach Brown. But again, they didn't have any firepower to shoot. They had no weapons to try and do anything last night. It was hang on for dear life and see how we go.
Yeah, which Daniel did an excellent job of, by the way. I don't think there's many drivers that could have done what he did, hanging Gasly out to dry for that long, maintaining track position. Like, he did an excellent job, and that is a skilled driver.
It's a shame his engine blew up, because now he's going to have to take gearbox, ICE, MGUH, you know.
Only they changed it last weekend.
Well, the
WTF.
We don't have an ICE, it's ICE unit, anyway, whatever. Look, it's a shame. Danny Rick's going to have to take. He'll have to take a lot of penalties later on in the season, which, coming up to the tracks we're at, I just can't see McLaren doing good anywhere. They're going to suck with high downforce at Singapore. That's the one.
Malaysia. Let's go back to Malaysia.
Yeah, that was a good track, actually. What else have we got coming up? We got Singapore, then we got the 3 America races.
Suzuka. So it's Singapore, Suzuka, 3 America races, and Abu Dhabi.
Danny Rick's chance to prove himself this year will be Japan,
which we love.
Oh, how good is that? It's two races away, but
I don't mean the 3 American races, by the way. I mean as in like the America
the
races.
Continent. Yeah. We get you.
Mexico, Brazil. Mexico is going to be interesting, I think, for McLaren.
Yeah.
Just because it's a different altitude. Maybe that's going to make a difference. Probably not. Let's keep talking.
The Mercedes engines suck at high altitude.
Yeah.
Let's keep going. Let's talk about Mercedes. Let's talk about Mercedes. Hamilton had a pretty good drive considering where he started. And it doesn't feel like this car was as powerful as the Ferrari was. So when we saw Carlos Sainz slipping through the field, it wasn't really the same that we saw for Hamilton. But overall, I think Mercedes, Campy seem to be getting themselves into probably a decent spot for challenging maybe the championship for next year.
Yeah, I think they'll still win a race this year. I don't think George has the pace compared to Lewis. He's got the results in the last few races just because the things that have happened to Lewis. I'm still waiting for that race. I mean, it should have been last week. Lewis should have won that race. In the Dutch Grand Prix. He will win a race this year. It's just the card's got to fall right for him because and last night he had damage from lap 1. You know, it was a bit like the the Valtteri 2.0 in Melbourne where you guys saw him and he was scooting off. It clearly had some damage to the floor, which lost him some downforce. So, although he hasn't got the results this year compared to his teammate, he is by far the faster guy on track, and he'll be. I think Lewis could drive to his 45. I don't think he's going anywhere, and he made that.
He's a LeBron James for sure, definitely.
He made that. Yeah, he's not MJ, is he? So, but he made. Hey, look, he made that comment in the which you and Freya touched on Friday. He made that comment about Daniel Ricciardo, in his press conference, and just said, "Hey, he was basically saying, and if I can paraphrase Lewis Hamilton, there's people on this grid that don't deserve to be here, and Danny Rick is one of those guys that has proven and got a track record, and he deserves to be on the grid. He's got the respect of everybody." So, that's, I paraphrase. He's a bit nicer than that, but if that's what he was really saying, that's what he's saying.
Sure.
So,
I wonder if VB's left some unlucky talisman or something around at Mercedes that just been handed off to Hamilton, because his luck this year has been VB-esque, hasn't it? When George just seems to kind of get lucky with everything, and it seems every week there's some extenuating circumstance that's out of Lewis's control, and he's just like, I was nearly there, but this thing happened or something happened, and I was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Whereas George seems to be getting cheeky podiums just accidentally by just being George.
yeah. What a shame.
Interesting. I wonder if VB did that on purpose and he left like.
This is the cursed chassis.
Traditions.
Yeah, exactly.
Look, as an organisation, Mercedes are exceptional. Geez, the drivers, they're two just dud personalities, aren't they? George Russell gives you absolutely nothing. He's the straightest squid I think to ever drive on the F1 grid.
He does have a punchable face. You are very correct.
Well, even your dad would back me up on that one, Tommy.
Oh, yeah.
100%.
Anyway. Let's talk about who should have been a very yellow team, Tommy T. I absolutely agree with your point from Friday's podcast. Copy-paste 2019 Renault and put a Ferrari logo on the back of it would have been outstanding. That yellow Ferrari name across the back wing, if they don't keep that, ridiculous. And then, of course, they put yellow in all of the wrong places as a result of that. But we'll get to the fantasy names in a bit, but there won't surprise you to know that there's lots of Minions references to that, noting the drivers. One thing that I would say is there was I think in 2020 when we were all on lockdown and Charles was driving one of those virtual Grand Prix, he was wearing a banana suit. And there's a great image on the internet saying like that photo, and then the photo from him for this weekend, and someone's peeled Charles. So
the internet.
I know Ferrari's been traditionally red, but they've had some cars that they've definitely marketed in that Ferrari yellow, which is like unbelievable. But make the whole car yellow.
Yeah.
Like, you change the suits on the team look way better than the red ones.
That's what I mean. I was like, go all in.
Go all in. But anyway.
Yeah, so apart from them being yellow,
they're never going to do that in
fully yellow. No. It was almost a shame for Sainz. Fourth, he had such a good drive. He probably could have got onto a podium, but I suppose George was probably just stronger overall over the weekend, so maybe fourth was as best as he could have hoped for, starting where he started. But Leclerc's pace, again, as we said earlier on, just absolutely nowhere near Verstappen's. Even if they had a lap of racing left, unlikely that would have happened. But interesting that both cars actually finished, Tommy T.
Yeah, I mean, I did not expect that. I mean, you probably heard me predict that something was going to go catastrophically wrong for Ferrari in Monza. But no, I think all things considered, that wasn't a bad result. I think genuinely, the stuff up aside, I don't think they had two cars on the podium. I think they're lucky to get the one, so they should be happy with that result.
Yep.
That's it.
Well, Carlos started the back of the grid with penalties, so he had to come through the field. And he made his way through the field really quickly and really well, but just not as quick as Verstappen. I know Verstappen started in seventh, but Verstappen in that Red Bull is just another category in itself. I mean, Perez had some pace last night, but he just stuffed up. I mean, the first in, he locked the front, and he said he locked the front and flat spotted the tyre because there was something stuck in the brake. But That was his way of saying it wasn't my fault. But I think he genuinely stuffed up, flat spot in that tyre. But then again, he had to pit again and get the brake issue sorted because of the thing going into one of the brake ducts. So, but he had some pace coming home strong. The strategy just wasn't there for him. But corner after the race said he was just as quick as Max.
That's just a good team principle, I reckon, because Max is walking away from every teammate he's ever had.
Max will steal the championship at the next race. So
yeah,
it's just where we're at in this sport. We're going to have 6 races left, and it's all over.
Yeah, as I've said for the last couple of introductions, he wins the 22 World Championship because there's just no one anywhere close to him to, rival him for that. I asked this question to a couple of people yesterday as well. What is the point where we get bored of Max winning? The same that we got bored of Lewis, and the same we got bored of Seb and Schumacher. And we are in that kind of era now, right, of clear dominance from a team.
Yep.
Hannah doing amazing strategy for both cars, but obviously, Checo is not as good as Max. That's just the full stop sentence when it comes to drivers. Adrian Newey, absolute superstar designing cars. Christian, ruthless. They've killed the Porsche deal because they want control over where everything goes forward. And I'm okay with that, to be honest. The last time that specific team was a manufacturer was Jaguar, and that didn't go well. So I think for them to keep, that good balance going forward is the right thing, and it allows Porsche maybe to connect with another team or Andretti or someone else to bring them into the sport, which we can talk about later in a different podcast. But I think the whole package of Red Bull right now, Campy, is just unstoppable. And, not that I want to bring in the driver market thing, but it's unlikely now in my mind that Red Bull's really going to want to change their driver lineup for next year, because the rhythm is Max is the number one driver, Sergio is supporting, always supporting, should be trying to get as many podiums as he can. He's not driving as well as he probably could, but he understands his role within that team.
Yeah, you go back to the Webber-Vettel era. Webber probably didn't deserve that drive on pace the last couple of years he was there, but Red Bull saying, hey, we're winning World Drivers' Championships and Constructors, so we can't let people go because of that. To get to your first point about are we sick of seeing Max Verstappen win, for me it's a foregone conclusion that he's going to win the majority of races just because he's that quick. I'm still looking at this and I'm still marvel at his pace compared to everybody else.
Yeah.
I'm still in that stage at the moment. I don't know when I'm going to get sick of it and, blah, blah. But this guy clocked up his 30th win last night, and that 30th win has come in the context of not just his world championships. This is the first year that he's had a car that's absolutely dominated. So if you take those, these wins that he's had off this year back to, the 2021 that he had previously, those 21 race wins came in cars that were not the best on the grid, up against a Mercedes that was astoundingly quick for 7 or 8 years. So just to see where he's tracking in his career compared to everybody else and his age, he's so far ahead of, Lewis at where he is at that stage. And give this guy another 2 years of domination, he'll probably have 55, 60 wins, a couple of years.
I think.
And he's overtaken Seb, and now he's just got Schumacher and Lewis in his eyes. Now, he's not the kind of guy, he's not going to make moves to another team if he's winning. He's just not that kind of driver. He's not going to go Ferrari if they offer him the world. He's going to stick. He's stone cold like that. He's like, I'm staying with this team. We're just going to do it all together. Yep. It would not surprise me if in 5 years he's won 7 on the trot and won 13 to 15 races a year, which, get him up to that 80, 90, 100 plus pole positions, all that sort of stuff. The guy is that good.
Yeah. I think on that point of will we get sick of Max, he's not winning from pole. There's no front row lockouts from Red Bull like we were seeing with Mercedes, where they'd qualify at the front, finish the race at the front, and it was boring racing.
Yeah.
Max is doing it from wherever he qualifies. He's not always got the fastest car to qualify with, but he is the best racer on the Sundays.
Yep.
no matter where he starts from, that guy is ruthless and has the best racecraft of anyone that we've seen in a long time. I think that's why it's still exciting. We're not just like foregone conclusion, I'm going to turn it on, he's going to start from the start, never overtake anyone and finish in the start. That's not what we want to see.
His move on George Russell last night to get into that third place was the second. Oh, mate, the braking was so late. It was almost slow motion.
Yeah.
Just the way he positioned it and you just saw how much better that car is.
Yeah.
Under braking, and just to get up to him and, on a track, even with DRS, was irrelevant. The DRS was for 6 miles an hour, which is nothing in this. But that move just laid on the brakes and wasn't hard, wasn't even under pressure. But that's just the sort of moves that that car can make with Max Verstappen driving it. And it's just, I'm still in awe of how quick he is.
Yeah, I think the difference is we saw, like, VB is an excellent driver, and we would argue that Lewis is a tier above, say.
Yep.
But the point of that car was so far above anyone else that VB was qualifying second and finishing second. That's how good that car was. I don't think the Red Bull's that far above any other car. I think Max is that far above any other driver is the difference, I guess.
The key for me is if there is somebody on the grid that can go toe-to-toe with Max Verstappen over a whole season, is there a guy like a Nico Rosberg who can come in and challenge Max over a season and push it? And if there is that guy, I'm not. Danny Rick's the only one to do it, so I'd back him in to do it and probably win one as well. But if there is that person, are Red Bull willing to get rid of Perez at the moment to put that guy in so that they are even more dominant than what they are at the moment?
I don't think they would. I think they're happy with the driver they've got in Sergio, who is sold out for the team, and he's playing a team sport when Max is playing an individual sport almost.
I'm hearing
I
you.
think that's how it's working. And Sergio's seen the other side. He's seen the dark days of being at the back of the grid and nearly losing a drive. He's just happy to be there and just turn up to work and smile and get paid.
Totally. I'm hearing you. But look at Red Bull's organisation. Their junior pool is not great at the moment. Had some problem with Yuri Vips earlier on, blah, blah, got rid of him. Gasly goes next year to Alpine, just hypothetically. Sonoda, for you, Jim, you said it earlier, doesn't deserve a drive. He was lucky to get this drive this year. I think he's been better. He goes well. That's 2 seats at AlphaTauri that become open in that Red Bull pool. Now, we would hope that Danny Rick gets there and then sets the world alight again next year and gets that drive up into the top seat. But as a fan, I think Red Bull need to make that decision and get the absolute best driver. I mean, imagine Leclerc and Max Verstappen teaming up together. On paper, it looks really good. Max will just wipe the floor with all of them. So, but I want someone to push Max. I want someone to be there he just seems like he's doing it so easily at the moment and knowing he's untouchable. But I want someone in there that can push him, who's going to beat him, that 4 or 5 times out, 3 or 4 times out of 10 when they go out on track, just to push him to get him that extra point. So whether they're willing to do it as a fan, I'm not sure, but it'll be good to see. That's why we want Danny Rick in that seat again, right?
So the short answer is no, we're not bored of watching him win.
Not yet.
Which is, and I'm not either. My question though is the dominance is coming. I think you make an interesting point, Tommy T, that you saw if there was a qualifying issue for a Mercedes last year or year before, they struggled to get through the pack because they set the car up to be out the front, which is why they were great at qualifying and great in the lead. They were 45 seconds ahead. But when it comes to this car, and maybe there's new regulations, that's exciting for cars being able to follow. But yeah, Max Verstappen is just genuinely one of the most amazing talents I think we're ever going to see. And I think in 10 years' time, when he's still driving in the sport, looking back at, I think it was a good point, the comparisons to Hamilton and Hamilton's comparisons to Schumacher and Schumacher's comparisons to Senna, where they were, and Prost, etc., where they were in each other's careers at similar age and time, I think is really interesting. But let's not forget that Max Verstappen has been driving this car for a very long time, and he's been biding his time patiently, waiting for Red Bull to come towards the front. So I think there's a lot.
24 still. It's insane.
No, yes, yeah, but he's been racing the sport since he was 7, or for the last 400 years. But I guess the point is very good. Campy. He's not going to Ferrari. He's not going to suffer that. Maybe Mercedes or anything else might be able to sort of lure him across at some point in the future. But if the team is so dominant, and as I mentioned, you got Hannah, you got Christian, you've got Helmut, you've got all these guys who are used to winning. Like their whole direction is always winning championships. Yep. No one else apart from Mercedes is competitive against that, and you don't need to go to a team that's nowhere near as fast.
People would want to go to that culture, won't they? They'll go follow. Max is there, cool. I'm going to go to that team because that guy's going to win. That's where they're going to be. And look, maybe the culture has changed slightly since Daniel left. I think we understand some of the reasons, and probably not all of them. Well, definitely not all of them as to why he left. But now where the car's sitting, I think if it was a similar time frame and maybe those things were happening again, because the ability to win a world championship is there, it might be a different thought process for DR. I hate this term, but sliding doors. All right, well, that's our team-by-team analysis done for the week. Let's have a look now at the fantasy team names.
Good sake.
What a producer, hey?
It's just... this show. All right, I've got a couple here. So here we go. Tifosi that ever tifosied, Steen N. To Williams in the nick of time, Nicholas H. Dan, let's get you on the hards. We need you slower, Trent K. And Daniel Ricciardo wins the Italian GP. David W. Miss you, Massey, heart emoji, A-T. Plan B for bananas, Jake B. Minions, the rise of Bin Otto, LBS. You were right, Massey, Dennis O. Team principal Gru and his minions, Samuel R. Watching Monza 2021 instead, Kelly W. Yeah, I'm there with you. Would you like Vrees with that? Byron H. Where's Michael Massey when you need him? Daniel B. Banana Splits, Daniel T. Sad Shuey Tears, Ashley W. Mama Ricardo is coming for you, McLaren, Haley H. And a Nick for a Nick, Jane W. Top three, we're looking for a P5 finish in first. Karim K from Australia, 241 points. And Yuki Cookie, second. Ken T from USA at 217 points. And third, Jimmy's Sauce Squad, James L, 215 points from Australia. Well, that's it for this week. Lads, thank you. Now, we've got a couple of weeks before the Singapore Grand Prix. It's not going to stop this podcast, of course, but it's almost an equivalent summer break for the teams to be able to sort themselves out, get themselves down to the correct side of the planet. It's going to be an interesting one coming out of Monza because the circuit is so different. And normally we'd have Russia in the middle, which is kind of a halfway, when it comes to downforce and speed between both.
You miss Russia, don't you?
No. That was the shittest racetrack ever. Well, I've missed
but of course,
make an appearance everywhere after the race.
But of course,
you
can find out more about the podcast on any of the links in the description below. You can support the show by becoming a patron of the show on our Patreon, and a massive thank you to those of you who are doing that. We really appreciate that. You can grab some merchandise as well. But that's it for this week. We will see you on. Well, we won't see you. Freya will see you with a special guest if it's going to be me or Tommy or Campy or Munus or who knows. We'll sort that out earlier than we did last time on Friday, and we'll have a session with Campy on Sunday. Thank you so much for listening and watching. See you next time. Okay, well, let's get into it then, shall we?
Doing a clap of some kind?
Yeah, let's do a clap. You can, Tommy T, you can count.
Can I, though? Ready?
Hang on.
No. You don't need to clap, just one person from each side.
I'll ring you back recording the podcast. Cheers.
I love that this is all in, and Zeke is going to use this for sure.
Oh.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
It's Campy's bid.